Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind Movement Health podcast. I'm excited today. We have a very special guest on the show. Xeba, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kate. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited today because we're going to be diving into all things gut health and supplements, all the questions that, most women tend to have when it comes to looking after their health and wellness. But before we dive in, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, my name is Xeba. I'm the founder of a brand called Preme Foods. We provide gut building hydration. So that's a fancy way of saying we do prebiotic fibers with electrolytes. And yeah, I live in Dallas. I used to live in LA for like 10 years, and that's where I launched.
Amazing. And most people, when they kind of start their own business, have a personal story that's, led them on this path to either create a product or, create a service. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your backstory?
Definitely. I mean, I never intended to start a food brand. I didn't even know that was a thing you could do. I was working in TV and film in producing, and the last project I worked on was Oscar award-winning film Coda. So shout out, go see it. But yeah, after I got really, really sick with gut issues, I really couldn't work full time. And I started sort of documenting my experience on a podcast, and it got kind of noticed and recognition. And then I ended up developing sort of a freelance business. And I really loved this entrepreneurial feeling that I was getting of creating my own business out of thin air. And while I was really sick, my doctor, I was so fortunate to work with a functional medicine doctor who taught me a lot about Chinese medicine and the power of FODMAPs and prebiotic fiber. At the time, I had no idea there was even a difference between prebiotics and probiotics. I mean, I had no idea. And I just watched my gut health transform from really starting to add in these certain nutrients into my diet on a consistent basis. And when I would go to like Erewhon and shop at all the health food stores near me, I couldn't really find any snacks or drinks that fit the ticket of stuff that wouldn't irritate my gut. Either there was an inflammatory ingredient in there, or there were added probiotics. And the problem with added probiotics in gut health is it has been shown that too many probiotics can actually cause inflammation and more harm to the gut. So it was really hard for me to understand why every single gut health brand had probiotics in there. And as someone who had an overgrowth of bacteria, I was diagnosed with like SIBO, toxic black mold, H. pylori. And from those and just being chronically constipated, I realized like too many random probiotics is actually making me bloat and making me worse. And so just prebiotic fiber is a lot more inclusive of an ingredient, and making sure that it was a bloat friendly prebiotic fiber was the key. And so every morning I would make this oatmeal on the kitchen counter, and I would add in my prebiotic fiber and my collagen, and I would try to pack in as many nutrients that I could stomach. I mean, I was super nauseous when I would wake up. I was exhausted. And all I wish was just like I could grab something out of the fridge that tasted like a yogurt, a Greek yogurt, and maybe had that texture. And so that's what we launched with was an oat milk collagen pudding. And I was a bit naive at the time because what's so crazy, I didn't even know, but any brand that's in American grocery stores, I don't know about Australia, but any brand in American grocery stores has a shelf life of 6 to 8 months, which is actually so crazy and makes you understand why there's so many preservatives and everything. But what's amazing is they've done so much research in how to, not do preservatives, but that requires a lot of research and development. So I'm a bootstrapped brand. We've paid for everything up until this point, and the cost these gut building hydration beverages so that we could get to more people more easily and faster.
Amazing. And there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to
Yeah.
go back and just start with the difference between the prebiotic and probiotic, because I think that is a question a lot of people, they see them out there, but they don't really know what the difference is or what they are.
Totally. Probiotics are living cultures. They're like alive bacteria. And so first thing I want to say is your gut is as unique as a fingerprint. So the microbiome collection, the amount of good gut bacteria and the amount of bad gut bacteria, it's different for everyone. We all have a different assortment. And we haven't even identified all the species that are in our gut microbiome. So we've been able to identify a few key strains of bacteria in the gut that are beneficial, and we've turned those into probiotic supplements. So we've recreated those living strains, and now we're putting them in pills for people to have, which is great for someone who has like a food poisoning, or they know exactly what strains, they've done a gut stool test and they know what strains are missing and they can go get those specific strains. That's great. And then prebiotic fiber is like the fertilizer or the food for your good gut bacteria. It's usually made out of plant particles, and it feeds your good gut bacteria so it grows and it crowds out the bad gut bacteria. So it naturally supports your body to balance your gut microbiome the way it sees fit. So I like to say one supports the body to do its thing and one tells the body what it needs.
Amazing. And with the prebiotic fiber, are there other sort of, where are people kind of finding this prebiotic fiber? Is it already in their diet, or is there certain foods they should really be looking for?
So the best thing you can do for your gut health is to get as much plant diversity as possible. The better your gut health is, the better you're like getting an assortment of fruits and vegetables and nuts and legumes and things like that in your diet. The problem is people who have sensitive stomachs, or people who have things like SIBO, or people who bloat easily, they can't just start getting their 35 to 45 grams of fiber, or they'll start bloating, they'll get constipated, and they'll actually create more inflammation, and just more harm in the short term. So, what's encouraged is if people, I bet they say it's about like 90% of people who aren't getting their fiber goals. So, I bet if you really were to count your nutrition for the day, you're probably short on your fiber goals. And one day I tried to just pack in all the fiber, and it was just, you get so bloated, you get so backed up. And so making sure that you have a mixture of soluble and insoluble fibers. And for people who bloat easily, making sure that they get a FODMAP-friendly or a low FODMAP fiber is crucial. So every single snack brand on the market uses three different types of fibers, usually like inulin, chicory root, or like a Jerusalem artichoke. And those are all high FODMAP, meaning they'll irritate the gut pretty easily and they will cause you to bloat if you are sensitive to FODMAPs, if you have, gut digestive issues, if you have IBS, things like that. So I found three science-backed FODMAP-friendly prebiotic fibers, to include in our beverages.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're bloat friendly, so you just won't bloat, and like that's just like takes a lot of sweat off of people's shoulders.
And when it comes to FODMAP, again, there may be a few listeners that aren't
Oh,
quite sure
right.
what
What
FODMAP
does it
means.
mean? What does it mean? So it's an acronym for like fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols. It's just like a collection of foods, like plant-based foods, some dairy foods, and just showing like where they fall. If it ferments for a long time in your gut, then it will cause more bloating. If it's ferments faster and moves through faster, then you probably won't get as much bloating. So it's just broken down how long it takes for your body to process certain foods.
Amazing. And you mentioned that a lot of your products combine the prebiotic fiber with electrolytes. Let's chat a little bit about electrolytes. Why are they so
Yeah.
important?
So you see them everywhere all of a sudden, don't you? It's like everyone's talking about minerals right now, and it's because there's such crazy facts, but because of commercial farming practices, things like tilling and pesticide usage, our mineral content in our foods have just gone down. Like apparently our ancestors less than 100 years ago used to get like 8 times the amount of magnesium from their fruits and vegetables than we're getting today. So we're all pretty deficient in minerals, and most constipation and gut issues, the number one thing a root cause medicine doctor will put you on is trace minerals. Now, trace minerals are different than electrolytes, but they'll also put you on a magnesium, which is an electrolyte. So what I realize is like dehydration is so common in today's age because so many people are not getting great water sources. If you're not getting spring water, you're probably not getting enough minerals in your diet. you're already probably not getting enough minerals. But people who have their Brita or who have their water filter, like your water has no minerals in there. And so it's crucial that you're supplementing with electrolytes and then trace minerals. So you'll get both in our product. We use trace minerals from Utah's Great Salt Lakes, and then we have 100 milligrams of magnesium glycinate. And the reason we use magnesium glycinate is because it is the most bioavailable, meaning it will absorb the most if you have gut issues. And when you have gut issues or stubborn weight gain, you're already kind of having absorption issues, like you most likely are. So making sure that you're getting an electrolyte or a supplement that you're not going to just pee out and that you'll actually absorb. So we wanted to create an electrolyte that's tailored to people who already have these absorption issues to make sure that you're going to get as much absorption as possible.
Mm. Well, I know, with a lot of the magnesium supplements out there, there's, different compounds of magnesium, and a lot of
There's
them
so many different
aren't.
kinds.
Yeah, and a lot of them aren't very absorbable, or they don't contain a lot of magnesium glycinate because there's cheaper forms of magnesium that they can kind of, put into their supplements. So it's
Mhm.
amazing that, you are really including that magnesium glycinate, and and again, most people are lacking in magnesium as well.
Yeah, in general, and I think a lot of gut brands tend to use magnesium citrate, which all it does is just draw water to your bowels. And so it'll help some people go to the bathroom, but it's really not helping in a long-term way. It's just sort of like pushing water through. But what's great about magnesium glycinate is it's tailored to your nervous system and your sleep. And so when you're getting that rest and recoup on a nerve level, like that has so much to do with your gut-brain axis. A lot of people's IBS can be rooted back down to just their nervous system. So we're
Mm.
trying to address gut issues from kind of as many angles as we possibly can. We use hyaluronic acid as well as collagen because not only are they great for skin, but what's great is they have leaky gut benefits. So hyaluronic acid will coat your intestinal lining and force greater mending faster. So they say like almost all of us have leaky gut now, again, back to pesticide usage. And for anyone who doesn't know, leaky gut is when you have sustained inflammation in your stomach, which causes the lining in your gut barrier to erode, and you get sort of these holes in your intestines, and the food leaks out into your bloodstream, and that's why you'll get itchy maybe after something you ate, or you'll get rashes easily, or you get like histamine reactions or things like that. It's all because you have leaky gut, like brain fog. So I think we all should be on for some sort of fortification for leaky gut. So not only do our prebiotic fibers are science backed to support leaky gut, but the hyaluronic acid forces repair and hydration. And then the amino acids in the collagen also do the same thing. So we're really trying to come at the gut health from a lot of different angles.
Mm. And you mentioned the gut-brain axis. Can you chat about a little bit how that's all related back to the gut as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't realize, but like there was one time I was going to visit like a new boy that I was seeing, and I was on the plane and I just started bloating. I hadn't eaten anything, I hadn't drinking anything. So I knew I wasn't having a reaction, and I just started bloating and I was just nervous. And it really hit me how much the brain is feeding information to my gut and back and forth. The gut is feeding information to the brain. What's so interesting is that the gut is feeding like 7 times the amount of information to the brain than the brain is feeding to the gut. So we know that your gut is ultimately in charge, but we do know that your vagus nerve runs alongside, your system, and that when it's irritated, it can just cause you to bloat. And so I love like, travelers IBS is real because you're getting nerves, you're traveling, it's stressful. High cortisol is also depletes your minerals and can cause you to bloat as well. So, yeah, the gut brain axis is so interesting. And the more my gut health eroded, the less I was able to sleep and the more depressed I got. And just the less clarity I had, I would wake up like, and I would feel just waking up that I had had like 2 glasses of wine because of the intense brain fog that I was experiencing. So I was surprised by how much my mental faculties were at the mercy of my gut microbiome and the state of my gut health. Um, and my like the walls of my intestines and how sound they were. So yeah, the better my gut health has gotten, the more motivated I feel, the more happy I am, the better sleep I get, the more stable my mood is. I think we all can relate to that. Like if you get hangry, you start to feel it in your mood. It's real. Like it's because they connect together. You need both.
Mm. Well, we know it's all interconnected, and so many of our hormones are produced in the gut. So I think it's only probably been in the last, I would say, around 10 years, around that kind of mental health space that, as they've dived more into the gut health and they found that, we produce majority of our serotonin and that in the gut, which is, our happy hormone, and that's all related to our mood and,
Yeah,
whether or not we're
90%.
feeling, yeah,
Yeah,
which is a
it's
huge
produced
amount.
there.
So
Yeah,
if we don't have gut health, then we're not going to have great mental health really at the end of the
right.
day.
Right. And I do think that it's not a chicken or the egg. I think they both influence each other. Like if you are having stress, you're probably going to bloat or feel dehydrated or something like that, and vice versa. If you're having a gut reaction, then it might give you a headache or something to that nature. But like you were saying, even with hormones, I think what's great is like in our hot cooked cacao, we use liver supportive herbs. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like you'll ask people like, do you have gut issues? And they're like, no, I go to the bathroom every day. And the second thing I ask them is, do you have hormonal issues? And usually they say yes after they've said no. And I always say hormonal issues can be tied back to the gut. And so at the end of the day, you probably have a gut issue. Um, if you have if you get swollen breasts or if you get PMS, migraines, or if you have bad periods, like that's all related to how well your liver's functioning, and how well it's able to detox the excess hormones that are going through your body, which is super interesting as well.
So let's segue, if we can, a little bit into those sort of
Yeah.
detoxification processes. What are some things we can do to help support them?
Well, they say that my functional medicine doctor has said that like almost every single woman's liver that she tests is overburdened. So I guess we can all pretty much assume that our livers are working overtime, considering all the chemicals we expose ourselves to on a daily basis. And the number one thing I tell people is like, if your gut is backed up and you are feeling like an overwhelm of toxins, go sweat. Because if you can't poop, you can sweat. You might have a hard time sweating. You might need to take some like lymph active from Cellcore and take a binder, like a charcoal or something with you. But I think it's really important. So, like, if I am feeling constipated or backed up and there's nothing's working, no supplements are working, I get in the hot bath until I can sweat, or I go to the sauna or something like that. But you have to be careful because dehydration will just make you worse. So I just really encourage people to drink as much water as they can, get as many minerals as they can. And what's great about these liver herbs is just it's supporting your liver to just thrive. I think the bile flow can get stuck in there, and then your bowel movements aren't flowing as well. So once you get the liver like in a happy place, like you'll actually notice a difference in not only your hormones, but your bowels and your skin and things like that. And even your anger. They say your anger is tied to your liver. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's any other detox stuff besides, it's like when your body is backed up chronically, you have to practice all these smaller ways to detox to encourage it. And so I've noticed that when I sweat, dry brush, take binders, things like this all help me.
Mm. I reckon movement's good. So I always like,
Yes,
if people are listening in and they've got kids,
walking.
yeah, exactly. Just going out, getting some movement, just gentle, like you said, going for a
Yeah.
walk, that can be really helpful as well.
If you have those little jumper trampolines that can help you sometimes. What are those called? Those little mini tramps that everyone has.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
guess
seen
mini
those?
trampolines, really.
At least for me, when I'm like bloated and keeling over and not feeling well, like movement sounds really hard to me. But yeah, just like heat really helps me a lot in those situations, get everything flowing again.
Mm. And when it comes to kind of chemical loads, I think we're surrounded by chemicals now, but a lot of people aren't aware. Can you sort of chat about some of the places we may find that we're kind
Yeah.
of getting our chemicals from?
Well, I think the obvious places are like cleaning products. More second obvious places are like our fragrances or our skincare. But I think the most insidious places are just walking around. Um, we tested, I eat like very organic. I'm very strict. And I tested my glyphosate levels and they were still moderate. And sorry, for people who don't know, glyphosate is the pesticide that distinguishes between organic and non-organic. And so they're saying that it's, because it's sprayed in parks and because it's sprayed in public places, like you can't really fully mitigate it. And also it's getting onto organic crops from, runoff and things like that. So also like most soups and liquids that you find at the grocery store, you can find like those things in milks and stuff, milk cartons and things like that. They're usually hot pack filled, meaning they're brought to really high temperatures and then they're filled into those plastic lined containers. Um, at a high temperature, like 200 degrees, so that you kill the bacteria. And when you're doing that, you're leaching microplastics into your products. So I try to like avoid as much plastic, canned drinks, soups, things like this. Like I really try to get glass or just make it at home. But what's so great is that there's new research that shows like forever chemicals and microplastics are able to be detoxed by fiber.
Mm.
So the more fiber you get, the less disease. I'm always saying this. And I just don't think it's like you're forever like ridden with toxins. I think it just means like we all need to kind of like up our detox game, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I think even avoiding plastics, do you know what I mean? It is to avoid it completely, it's very difficult to do.
Impossible. You
Yeah.
cannot. There's no way. I mean, I know there's some people who probably do, but it's very costly, very
Yeah.
expensive.
That's it. And in saying that, yes, you may be like, oh, I buy my produce, that's, open at the supermarket, so it's not in plastic, but that doesn't mean it wasn't transported in,
That's so
plastic
true.
crates
That's so
to the
true.
supermarket. So, I
That's
think
so true.
there's always going to be exposure in some way. So, as you said, if we can really dial in those detoxification, really, up our liver functioning and stuff like that, that is all going to help as well.
Yeah, and I really don't say all this stuff to like scare people. I don't want people to be like overthinking in the store. Like, I think that when you're overly abstaining from things, you can go into like sort of a disordered mode of thinking where it's just causing you actually more harm than it is like helping your system stay like toxic free. I do think there's like a happy middle ground of just like, okay, I'm gonna only get my soups this way. And that's the one thing that I'm going to do. And I'm still going to maybe get toothpaste in a plastic tube or something like that. It's like you're reducing it, but not, we can't have 100% efficacy here.
That's it. There has to be a balance somewhere, doesn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't need to seek perfection.
And when it comes to sort of, if someone's listening in and they're like, oh, this is sounding like me, like I definitely have some gut issues happening and going on, where is a good place to start if they want to start changing their gut health?
I think if you can stomach fiber, to just start taking fiber, different forms, like get it by an apple, like start to count how much fiber you're getting and see if you can reach, if you're a woman, 30 to 35 grams, if you're a man, 40, 45 grams. Our ancestors used to get like 100 grams a day. So if you can go higher, it's better for you. But what I'll say is if you're starting to bloat from that, then you have something going on. And I really, really urge you to go get a stool test. They have them online. You can get a functional medicine doctor to read one for you. And I promise you, the money that it costs up front to go get a stool test and find out what's actually going on is going to save you in the long run of trying and buying all these different gimmicks because you are going to like everyone's gut is so unique that you're going to need like a unique route to get to that fully healed place with your gut. But yeah, fiber and minerals, trace minerals, just start there.
So-
And if you can't sleep, get magnesium.
And then when it comes to supplements, I think a lot of people think if they keep their diet the same and they add in supplements, that that will fix things. They don't have to change their diet. What's your take when it comes to adding in or, thinking about taking supplements?
I think I'm a little different than like the average nutritionist in America. I think the average nutritionist in America will say like organic doesn't matter, just get fruits and vegetables. And I'm kind of the mind that, yeah, if you can't find organic, great. But like, if there's organic and you're choosing between an organic apple where you eat the skin and a non-organic apple, I really urge you to get the organic apple. But you don't need to get every single thing. Like an avocado doesn't need to be organic if you're really low on your budget. But I prioritize organic and grass-fed, well-sourced, local, like farmers market, because our nutrition content in our foods have just really dwindled. And you want to be setting yourself up for success and not setting yourself up for cravings. And I really think that's when people fall into these habits of eating things like when I get cravings, I'm like, oh my God, let me eat this crazy fattening thing that like I don't wouldn't normally want. It's like you're not yourself and your body is not able to think soundly about what it wants and needs. And so just keeping your body in like a full state of support. Like I think a lot of women tend to skip breakfast. I think that that's a really big deal, like for women nowadays. Like make sure you're getting your protein and fiber. I think all of this contributes to your gut health. So I don't want to say stay away from gluten, dairy, blah, blah, all those things, because I just don't believe that if you have gut issues, you need to cut out dairy. I really believe what is the source of the dairy that you're getting? Is it high in lactose? Um, is it, sourced in like the grocery store and it's been packaged and like cut up and like what's in there? Because sometimes there's those cheese bags and there's like all of these additives in there that you're
Mm.
like, I don't need. So really, I urge people to like look at the back of the packaging and can you read the ingredients? And if you don't understand what an ingredient is, put it back.
Mm. Well, that's good
Yeah.
advice, but it is, I always say to my clients, shop around the outside edge where there's the fresh food, the veggies, the dairy, the meat, it's
First.
sort of center of the supermarket where you've got all your packaged
Yes.
foods. And like you said, if you can't understand or even pronounce an ingredient, it's really not meant to be in your body.
Yeah, you really are what you eat. Like when I found out that we're like more bacteria than we are human cell, it's like I do feel the difference when I've just eaten a bunch of packaged food versus I've just made a home cooked meal for myself with whole fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, it really has that sort of, as we were sort of saying before, that flow on effect, not just to how you move, but how you're thinking and reacting to situations and that as well.
Well, it's so easy to fall prey to that because we're all so busy and like once you get hungry, you're hungry. You know what I mean? So I just really encourage people to like set themselves up. Like have your snacks in your fridge that you know are healthy. Like get your fiber. I promise you, count your fiber. See how much you're getting.
Yeah, well, as you said before, most people are definitely not getting enough fiber. And I don't think people realize, the foods that fiber is in. And so, therefore, when we know it's more of that plant-based, most people aren't eating enough
It's
fruits and
hard.
vegetables. Yeah.
It's hard. And I'll say like when I have travel days or when I know I'm going to be like running around all day, like I'm probably going to eat on the go and it'll probably be like a sandwich or something that's gluten free, which doesn't have any fiber really in there. So when I know I'm going to be low on fiber for the day, that's when I supplement. Like that's when I take our unflavored gentle prebiotic fiber. It's 6 grams of fiber per scoop. I'll do 1 or 2 scoops. Maybe I'll do that with a hot cocoa and I'll have 10, 11 grams of fiber. That's a third of my fiber for the day. I'm sure I can get the rest. You know what I mean? So just knowing when to supplement, I think obviously you don't want to just be supplementing 24/7 all the time. I think it's best to get all this stuff from whole fruits, vegetables, meat, you know, real foods and treat the supplements as a supplement.
Mm. And is there anything that we haven't kind of covered today around sort of gut health and fiber that you'd really like to highlight to our listeners?
Um, no, all I will say is like if you bloat easily, don't give up. I've been there. I've been afraid of food. I've erred into disordered eating from like, I need to be so strict and I need to cut everything out. And I see so many people who are just strict about even 1 gram of like date sugar. And I'm just like, girl, you need to choose different battles. You know what I mean? So just encouraging people to love their bodies, love themselves, and find a way to like support their body and what it needs, and they will thrive.
Amazing. And I always like to ask my guests if there's one piece of health advice that you could give to our listeners that after listening to this podcast, they could instigate straight away, what would it be?
Practice learning what your body is telling you. That takes time, but really connecting to the signals in your body and then understanding what it's asking for. Like if you have headaches, try hydrating with electrolytes and minerals and see if that helps you over time. And just getting to understand the cues of your body and getting curious about the signals. I meet so many people where they're like, I can't feel anything, or I'm not sure if it's working, or I don't know. And I'm like, you have not enough time to connect with your body and your system. And at the end of the day, doctors, practitioners, healthcare people are only here to help you. They can't heal you. They're here to hold you while you heal. So I really encourage people to take ownership of their health. I think a lot of us are waiting for someone to give us like a magic bullet. But you heal a lot better, a lot more efficient, and a lot more everlasting when it's from your own awareness that you've created with your body.
Well, I totally agree with that. And as you said, I think if people can build more rest throughout their day, throughout their week, and it doesn't have to be big, but
Spaciousness.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. It's just
Quietness.
creating.
Yeah. Just
That's it.
connect with yourself. Just a little bit of me time.
Mm. And there's lots of different ways to do that, whether or not, it is, through meditation or maybe just a little bit of breath work or
Walking.
just sitting,
Yeah.
yeah, walking, mindfulness, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is, but just start delving
Journaling.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
different options.
Yeah. Many ways to get to Rome.
That's it. Now, where can our listeners reach out, connect with you, and find out more about Preme Foods?
So we're on www.premefoods.com. It's spelled Preme, and then foods is plural. You can also reach out to us on Instagram at drinkpreme. You can DM me. I'm totally available to answer any questions, or you can email us from our website if you have any questions. And yeah, I hope to hear from you guys.
Amazing. And before we finish off, is there a story behind how you named your company as
Yeah.
well?
It's so funny because my friend Ryan, uh, so I ended up hiring a branding team to kind of help me with the brand. And I really, really hated every single name that they came up with. And every other name that I came up with was like somehow already a name that was taken. So I called my friend Ryan, who's very well known in the design community, and I said, please, I have to take you to dinner and we have to brainstorm on the name. Like we have to pick a name together. So we're sitting at dinner and he's like, okay, tell me about the brand again. What is it? And I'm like, okay, we're premium. We use prebiotic fiber. And he's like, Preme, that's it. And we just both looked at each other and we're like, that's it. And it just felt like hearing the name of your baby for the first time. So yeah, Preme for premium and prebiotics, because a lot of people just assume we have probiotics in there and we don't. So it's PRE for the prebiotic.
Amazing. I love that. I
Yeah,
was like,
thank
there
you.
has to be a story. So
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me, Kate.